Howdy, I'm Michael Martin Murphey, and this is the Lone Cowboy Hour. What in the world is this show about? Well, you should take a look at a movie called High Plains Drifter, starring Clint Eastwood. At the beginning of the movie, he's riding across an open plain through that country in Northern California called Mono Lake. Great picture of a cowboy by himself riding into a situation. And at the end, he rides out of that same situation. That's what this show's about. I'm on a rundown, I'm out running the sundown, thinking I'm on the right track. I'm writing a song as I'm riding along, and I'm keeping the sun at my back. Big horse trailer and truck, I can make my own luck. I ride through the sand and the sage. It gives me a rush to be busting the brush, acting about half my age. Lone cowboy, I'm doing my best. Lone cowboy, I go everywhere west. Lone cowboy, with my old campfire songs. Lone cowboy, lone cowboy, lone cowboy, giddy up, get along. Well, on this Lone Cowboy Hour, we're going to be discussing an album I made called Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks, and Alleys. It was the second album produced by John Boylan, and for this particular album, I picked a venue that I'd played many times when I first started out in California in the music business, when I left Texas to go out there because there was no music business in Texas. It was called the Palomino Club. And the Palomino Club is where I worked for a while when I first got to UCLA. I was kind of a hippie kid in the 60s trying to get a college education, and I had long hair and I didn't really fit in, so I had to get my hair cut and even go under a different name, because if they had found out I was going to UCLA, well, that was a school that was just politically incorrect with a whole lot of the redneck crowd in the Valley in California and the honky tonks. So I kind of got my hair cut, I kind of changed my image, and I changed my name, and I decided to work at the Palomino Club. And we were actually the house band on a couple of nights when the regular house band was off. And we saw a lot of honky-tonk action. If you ever saw the movie The Blues Brothers, where they had wire in front of the stage so that people couldn't throw things on the stage, we actually had to have that in the Palomino Club a few times, or wish we'd had it anyway. So this is called Another Cheap Western, and it describes what it was like playing in that scene. I guess you could say I came up through the folk clubs in the beginning and the coffee houses, and then I went to the honky tonks to try to make a living. And I was familiar with that scene a little bit from being from Texas, but man, the way it was in California is the rednecks there kind of all gathered in the same area, and they didn't let anybody else in on the scene. They were pretty tight, and they were pretty rough. 6 nights a week, been boozing with the barfly. Call the 8-ball in the corner pocket, buzzing with my B.I. baby. Woo! I don't mean maybe. Jiving to the jukebox, trying to stay alive and watch another cheap western with me. Just picks a banjo, you keep the liquor flowing, blowing out your mind with a cheap gun, son. No matter what you say now, nobody can save you from a leather tool fool who's never been to high school. Watch another cheap Western with me. Watch another cheap Western. Woo! Watch another cheap Western. Give me one more try to get me off the floor. Watch another cheap Western with me. Where they call in the Ku Klux Klan from the sticks. You better do a few tricks like quickly disappearing just like a revival. It's a matter of survival. Just give me one more try to get me off the floor. Watch another cheap Western with me. Well, you're trying to be nice to the guy next to you, digging his date, she's looking right through you. Don't dance with his girlfriend, you'll be leaving this world, friend. Well, I played a few gigs, seen a few gigs, so watch another cheap Western with me. Watch another cheap Western, woo! Watch another cheap Western, woo! Seen a lot of cowgirls, been around the world. Watch another cheap Western with me. Yes, I've seen a lot of cowgirls, I've been around the world. Watch another cheap Western with me. My baby loves the Western movies. My baby loves the Western movies. Wham, bam, shoot 'em up, man. My baby loves the Western movies. Baby loves the Western movies. My baby loves the Western movies. Try to stay alive, listen to the jive. Watch another cheap Western with me. Okay, another song from Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks and Alleys. An album that I put out about 1979, produced by John Boylan, who also produced Charlie Daniels and a number of other artists. Worked a lot with some of the California country rock people. That's what he was known for. Worked a little bit with Jackson Browne and had worked with Linda Ronstadt. I knew all those people, and I think they don't get enough credit for the influence that they had on what was coming in country music, because they were taking it back to a more basic, gutsy country music than what Nashville was putting out, which had become very much what they call countrypolitan. I never liked the countrypolitan sound. That was not for me. I liked country from the country for country people, because that's who I grew up with, and that's the people who produced the music originally. So I played the Honky Tonks when I was young, came back to the Palomino Club to make this album live, but I remembered my experiences at the Palomino Club. Now, if you can think about what was going on in 1979, if you know anything about what was going on then, that was right on the edge of the movie Urban Cowboy coming out. And I had just sold an idea for a script to a movie company, and we were making a movie called Hard Country. And it became kind of a race to see who was going to get out the first movie about the exploding honky-tonk scene in Texas and Oklahoma. And of course, that kind of matched the oil boom time also. And of course, we all know that John Travolta took on that project and did Urban Cowboy. My movie, which was called Hard Country, came out later, and it was kind of an afterthought, really, but still did pretty well. And some interesting things about that film, if you get a chance to watch it. Again, it's called Hard Country, and it was Kim Basinger's first film. Also, Daryl Hannah was early on in her career, and she played Kim Basinger's sister. Jan Michael Vincent played the male lead role, and it was all about what people go through in that honky-tonk situation, living in a mobile home, maybe somewhere out in Midland, Texas, and working in the oil fields. And a lot of the roughnecks that worked in Louisiana and East Texas also came into a club called Gilley's, Well, after they got themselves in enough fights and enough trouble, sometimes they would end up in jail. And that was a tough situation. It always made me think of this song because I knew some of my friends who had acted up a little bit too much were going to be in prison. And they would call me from prison and say, Murph, we're in jail. So it made me think of this song by Sam Cooke, which came out when I was just a kid. There's a lot of country in this song, a lot about what happens to poor black people and poor white people, people of all colors in the country. All day long they work so hard till the sun's going down, working on the highways and byways, wearing the frown. You hear them moaning their lives away, then you hear somebody say, that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. That's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. One of these days I'm going home to see my woman so dear. But right now I gotta work so hard. Gotta stay right here. Bring me water, bring me water. My work is so hard. Bring me water, bring me water, bring me water. Oh, my work is so hard. That's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. That's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. That's the sound of the men, sound of the men working on the chain gang. Oh, that's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks, and Alleys was a transitional album for me, the first live album that I ever made. And there was actually quite a great crowd reaction on the experience. We had a lot of people there. Palomino Club in the Valley in California, right outside of Los Angeles. Yeah, that's where the Valley Girls came from, but a lot of them were cowgirls, hung out in this area. And right next to it, close to the Palomino Club in the same neighborhood, was where a lot of the big country and western stars had their outfits made at a place called Manuel's, and Manuel worked there. So this is called South Coast. It's very much a California song. Talks about the wildness of California and what a Wild West place it was at the time of the Spanish first coming in there, and then when it became later on its own republic, sort of the Zorro time period. That's what this is about, and I wanted to salute that. I lived in LA, and there's a lot that I didn't like about it, so I moved to Austin, Texas. I'm not from LA originally, I'm from Texas, but I had gone out there to get in the music business. When I moved back to Texas, there's some things about California I missed, and it was, Yosemite and Kings Canyon and all the wild country down around Monterey and Big Sur and all that. And that's the part of California that this is about. If you ever want to see a Western that's shot in that setting, you want to see Marlon Brando in a movie called One-Eyed Jacks. Captures that country really beautifully. What a great cinematographer was in that film. So here's South Coast, written by Terry Gilkinson of Terry Gilkinson and the Easy Riders, who had a lot of hits during the folk craze of the 1950s and early 60s. But I did it because California is such a wild place, and I spent part of my life there. And even though it's become a very urban place now, there's still great places there, way out on the coast, Monterey. South Coast, the wild coast is lonely. You might win at a game at Hodgin, but the lion still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone. My name is Juanjano de Castro. My father was a Spanish grandee, and I won my wife in a card game. No woman never comes free. I picked up the ace, I had won her. Don Carlos called me a cheat. She was a prize worth the taking. Like a warm summer's day, she was sweet. South Coast, the wild coast is lonely. You might win at a game in Hodgin, but the lion still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone. Her arms had to tighten around me as we rode up the hills from the south. Not a word did I hear from her that day, nor a kiss from her pretty red mouth. We came to my cabin at twilight. The stars twinkled out on the coast. She soon loved the valley, the orchard, but before long she loved me the most. South Coast, the wild coast is lonely. You might win at a game in Hodgin, but the lion still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone. Then I got hurt in a landslide. So quickly she rushed to my side. She saddled her pony like lightning, but she never finished the ride. The lion screamed in the barranca. Pony fell back on the slide. My young wife lay dead in the moonlight. My heart died that night with my bride. South coast, the wild coast is lonely. You might win at a game in Haron, but the lion still rules the barranca, and a man there is always alone, and a man there is always alone. I decided to put this song on Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks, and Alleys, my first live album that I'd ever done, because I wanted to look back to how I came to California. Again, the album was recorded at the Palomino Club in the Valley in California, and I had gone back there from Texas. I had moved down to Texas to get away from California, but I came back and played often. Returned back to some of my old haunts like the Palomino Club, where I played in the honky tonk band at this great dance and drinking honky tonk in California. Probably got in a little too much trouble there and ended up writing the song called Backslider's Wine about wanting to get out of there. But I came back, and it was some nostalgia for me too, because it's really where I cut my teeth and learned how to be a songwriter when I was working for Screen Gems Music and hanging out with a few other Texans and people from the Midwest and the South. So this is about when I left home for the first time. First time that I said goodbye to Mom and Dad, decided to say goodbye to North Texas State University, where I was a student, and go out to UCLA to be there. I told my mom and dad that UCLA had some courses that I really wanted to take, and that's why I had to change, but that's not really why I went out there. The truth is I went out there to get in the music business, and there just wasn't anything for me. I'd gone as far as I could go in Texas, which is basically just playing a few little coffee houses. I wasn't old enough to be able to play in any of the saloons or bars, and there were no concert venues available to me. So I got out to California, and this is a little bit about what it felt like to go out there and then to contemplate leaving later on. And all my life I've drifted around, lived in different places. In the back where the chairs are stacked, I'm warming up by the stove, thinking about my old Ford, stomped to the floorboard, chugging out a Pleasant Grove, blazing over open country like a dust devil dancing on a dime. Guess I was a red-eyed backslider. Now I'm tired of the ride. But once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. Once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. Mama standing in the driveway, too choked up to say goodbye. Turned my collar and I turned my back. I went a mile and I started to cry. Johnny, Donnie, Brooks and me, singing songs to pass the time. Long before the before came, long before the star game, long before I came to find. Once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. Once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. Ooh, yeah. Once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. So here I am, an uncertain man, headed for no place to go. Settling down, leaving town, a family man, a rambling man. I just pretend it's part of the show. One too many childhood movies with strangers riding off in the sun. Taught me you can't talk it out when you feel like walking out. The sequel's already begun. But once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. Once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. Ooh, once you're a drifter, always a drifter. Ooh, once you're a drifter, you're always a drifter. As we talk about the album I made called Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks, and Alleys, which was released around 79 and 80, 1979, 1980. I was going to tell you earlier in the show, and I'll tell you now, that you can stream this album now. If you go to michaelmartinmurphey.com and just look at the section called Music, just click on the section called Music. Almost all of my albums are on there that I could find, and I could get permission from the record company to stream so they could put them up on the format. And it's wonderful to be able to do that. You can listen to the whole thing. You can get to that particular part of my website with music, not just on your computer, of course, but on your cell phone. And we do have a cell phone version of my website that's easy to read. And the songs are listed on there. You can plug in your headphones and go out walking, go out jogging, and listen to the whole Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks, and Alleys album, as well as a lot of other of my albums I've released over the years. There's quite a few albums on my website, so hope you get a chance to do that. It's not an album that's easy to find, that you can buy. We don't sell it. We've not been able to get permission to manufacture it yet. We're working on that. But you can find it sometimes on these websites where they sell the old vinyl records and classic records of the past, or cassettes, which they were doing both around that time. You could get both of those formats. But I love the album cover, the way it looks as a vinyl, and the packaging that was in there. Once again, Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks, and Alleys was about my love-hate relationship with California. If I hadn't moved out to California from Texas when I was a kid, I never would have gotten into the music business and gone as far as I did. Had a chance to meet a lot of people out there. Buck Owens, Glenn Campbell, Merle Haggard, they all helped me out. Michael Nesmith, my old buddy from Texas, was in the Monkees. And when he got out of the Monkees, he actually recorded this song. And so this song has a lot of memories in it about me coming home at Christmas time from UCLA. And I'd always take the road that goes through Van Horn, Texas. There was a cafe there called the 24-Hour Cafe. There's hardly anything else in Van Horn at that time. Now, because of all the oil and gas development there, it's really grown a whole lot. Not recognizable for what I saw, but it was just a little hole-in-the-road town at that point. I mean, there was one restaurant there, one truck stop, and it was called the 24-Hour Truck Stop. Usually I would stop there after driving all night. The sun was coming up. I'd need to get some coffee, or else I felt like I was going to go to sleep at the wheel. So this is called Texas Morning. Right in the middle of the 10-cent scenery, shuffled and stacked on a postcard rack, there's a cute little kid with a Shetland pony, smiling at me and I can't smile back. Cactus Jack drinks coffee black, tells me, son, it's your lucky day. It's 5 o'clock in the Texas morning, and I've come a long, long way. It's 5 o'clock in the Texas morning, and I've come a long, long way. Now she left me cold on a winter morning, cold it's been for the longest time. She told me Texas is where she was going. I came looking, but she's hard to find. And Cactus Jack drinks coffee black, tells me, son, it's your lucky day. It's 5 o'clock in the Texas morning, and I've come a long, long way. It's 5 o'clock in the Texas morning, and I've come a long, long way. And I don't know where I'm gonna find her. Maybe the soldier with the suitcase saw her. She just said, going down to Texas for a little while. So I'm looking for the girl with light brown hair. She's got hazel eyes. She's not too pretty, but she's got a beautiful smile. She just said, going down to Texas for a little while. Well, the cook in the back is getting mighty curious to ask the waitress where I'm from. She just said, hell, I ain't never seen him. It's probably just some California bum. And Cactus Jack says, that's right. So I walk out into the light. It's 5 o'clock in the Texas morning, and I've got a long, long ride. It's 5 o'clock in the Texas morning, and I've got a long, long ride. Outside, the sun is up, and the wind blows me like a paper cup 5 o'clock, Texas morning. Well, it's been great to reminisce and look back on my first live album, which was called Peaks, Valleys, Honky Tonks and Alleys, recorded live at the Palomino Club. And also there were some tracks that were done in the studio that fit in with the songs that I did live. And I'd like, again, to tip my hat to John Boylan, who produced that album live at the Palomino Club back in the day. And some of the people that hung around then were people like John Frankenheimer, who was my lawyer in the music business, who bailed me out many times. And looking back to Tommy Thompson, who owned the Palomino Club, and James Burton, who used to hang out there and play in the house band. Some of the old Buck Owens band that played there when Buck wasn't on the road, just to keep their chops up. Those were the days of the development of the California music scene, and that was before the Texas music scene took off. And Texas, I think, has forgotten about the influence of those far Westerners who made that music scene happen. And particularly, we need to remember Glenn Campbell, who had a nationwide TV show doing country music and being a country boy on TV. And that opened up the door for people to do the music of the wide open plains of the West. I really consider Glenn more of a Western singer than a country singer, but of course he's very popular in country music, but didn't get recognized too much by the Grand Ole Opry until later. And what a great show that was. It also had John Hartford on it, who played his great banjo songs, and I believe he introduced Gentle on My Mind on that show. So here's to Glenn Campbell, Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, who was from Texas, by the way, and those guys who made it out to California like I did and got something going. If it hadn't been for them and them encouraging me back when I lived in that little tiny place I lived in California, and then lived up in the mountains above Calico, the old ghost town, I never would have been able to go back to Texas and have anything going. Oh, I want to also mention Kenny Rogers was a big help to me back then. Kenny Rogers was in a group, kind of a farm team of the Christie Minstrels after they first changed it. I think he was in the original Christie Minstrels. But that changed a lot. And of course, let's remember Michael Nesmith, who's still around making great music and split off from the Monkees. He helped me out by recording some of my songs. I think Michael even considered doing this one, some of my early songs. And I also want to mention that Larry Kanzler, who is my old buddy from North Texas State University, great music school, great jazz musician and arranger, co-wrote this song, and we were very much pals. And I remember getting up in the middle of the night when he was helping me work on a Kenny Rogers project. He was upstairs fast asleep after we'd stayed up most of the night writing, and I was sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor. His wife came down at 5 o'clock in the morning, said, "What are you doing up, Michael?" And I said, "I just had this dream. I dreamed this vision, and I want you to go wake up Larry." So Larry came staggering down the stairs, got a cup of coffee. He said, "Okay, what do you got? It better be good, because I'm pretty sleepy." And I said, "Well, this is what I got. I got this idea about a horse in a snowstorm who become ghosts and come back to take somebody away from all the hard times." He said, "Okay, let's work on it." And he sat down at the piano, helped me develop a lot of the chords in this song. All I had in the beginning was just a little opening part, right? All I had was, she comes down from Yellow Mountain. On a dark flat land she rides. Didn't know where to go from there, and then Larry said, well, let's go here, and then go here, go here. A lot of jazz influence on the chords in this song, and very much along the lines of the kind of music that Glenn Campbell was making back then when he made songs like Rhinestone Cowboy. She comes down from Yellow Mountain. On a dark flat land she rides. On a pony she named Wildfire. A whirlwind by your side. On a cold Nebraska night. They say she died one winter when there came a killing frost, and the pony she named Wildfire busted down his stall. In a blizzard he was lost. Ran calling wildfire, calling wildfire, calling So by the dark of the moon I planted, but there came an early snow. Been a hoot owl howling outside my window now, 6 nights in a row. She's coming for me, I know, and on Wildfire we're both gonna go. We'll be riding wildfire, riding wildfire, riding wildfire, on wildfire. We're gonna ride, gonna leave side busting behind, get the hard times right on out of our minds. We'll be riding wildfire. This has been the Lone Cowboy Hour. I'm Michael Martin Murphey, the producer, the writer, and the performer on this show. This show is about performing solo. This show is about what Clint Eastwood is saying in the movie High Plains Drifter when he rides away in the sunset without saying a word. Having completed his task that he came to town for, bringing some justice and retribution against some of the people that tried to hurt the town. He rides into town like wildfire, and he definitely leaves behind wildfire. Because when he leaves, he burns the town down. Here's to all you independent cusses out there, men and women who are individuals, who know how to live and love like wildfire and have a strong inner core. To know that even when you're alone, you don't have to be afraid, because you can handle it. Because when you think about it, you're really never alone. Because when you find that God is all you have, pretty quickly realize God is all you need. Riding wildfire, riding wildfire, riding
I'm on a rundown, I'm out running sundown, I'm thinking I'm on the right track. I'm writing a song as I'm riding along, keeping the sun at my back. Big horse trailer and truck, I can make my own luck as I ride through the sand and the sage. As it gives me a rush to be busting the brush, acting about half my age. Lone cowboy, I'm doing my best. Lone cowboy, I go everywhere west. Lone cowboy, with my old campfire song. Lone cowboy, giddy up, get along. I've owned some good ponies, blacks, bays, and blue ronies, grays, palomino.